Coach, once again, your group's been able to, withstand injuries and be able to rack up wins along the way. Over your time as a head coach, what have you learned about the keys to navigating those situations, and what are the keys for a team to maintain success when guys are in and out of the lineup?
I think really just continue to develop the players that you have and having guys stay ready no matter what the circumstances. I think having our coaches talk to them about different roles that they may play, but establishing that when the season starts. Our guys do a great job of continuing to put the work in, what the demand is on them as soon as they step in the game and what they're expected to do. Obviously, defensively, the way it's our calling card. So our guys being able to do that every time they step on the floor, but then giving them the confidence to know that when they step out there that we need them to be a part of what we're doing.
You said this morning you expected Tristan to be available. He's available tonight. Just to know that he's back and have him back in the lineup, what does that mean for the group and the ripple effects of that?
I think it's great that he's back in. He's got some time to get that shoulder right. But again, what he's done for this group, when guys have been out, have been great. To Dan's point, guys are able to step in, step up, and we do this thing by committee when you have bodies down. So for Tristan to be able to be back in the fold is great for us.
By the same token, Goga was ruled out, and you said he was going to go through a workout and kind of be a little bit of closer to a game time decision. How has his progress been, and kind of coming back, and how important is it, kind of in a similar vein, to make sure he's completely right before throwing him back in there?
Yeah, I think that's for anybody that goes down. The ability to make sure you're fully healthy before you step back on the court, because you want to be able to give your full go every time you step out there.
Coach, you've got 30 games out of Dez and Tyus and the rookies as well. How different are you approaching them now versus maybe at the beginning of the season? Like, you have probably the same foundation, but how do you navigate when to make a change or when to push a different button with players like that you haven't had years of experience with?
I think that's the important part of creating relationships with guys before they even step in the building. So you understand how they can be coached, how you have to push them, how do you have to get them in different spaces. But it goes back to Dan's point of what is the expectation when you put on that Magic jersey? And what you're expected to do is you're expected to play hard, you're expected to defend, you're expected to trust and play with your teammates. So these guys know exactly what it looks like. So when we're talking about our process, they can understand that more no matter who you're on the floor with.
You mentioned this morning needing to be able to communicate well, playing against the Charlotte team. They're very similar to teams like Boston. I think they're in the top 5 in the league in 3-point attempts per game. How does that communication change when you're facing a team that is so heavy on 3-point attempts, especially with how good you guys are at limiting those attempts?
Yeah, you can't get away from what we do. So understanding who you're closing out to, the first thing we've got to do a better job of protecting the paint and then get out to the shooters, knowing that they're going to try to attack, get downhill, multiple pick and rolls, so that coverage has to be clean. And the mistakes that happen is when there's lack of communication. So our ability to communicate at the highest level, to get out to the shooters, know who we're getting to, and then finish possessions off, because they get a lot of those off of kick out rebounds.
Coach, how are you and the team feeling today after the holidays and Christmas? I'm good. How are you?
Good.
When it comes to an inverted ball screen with the guard setting the screen, whether you're defending it, whether you're running it, both these teams do it well. What are the challenges for any team trying to stop that action?
Well, to Philip's point, it goes into the level of communication, knowing who's setting the screen. This is one of the biggest teams that sets guard-to-guard screens. So we have to make sure we're communicating, or if they're setting it or if they're slipping out. You'll have opportunities and times where Knipple will set a screen on Bridges. So we've got to make sure you're communicating how we do that, and that's the foundation of it. So it's just about the talk and the communication and making sure you're physical early so there's no missteps, because that leads to the open threes.
Coach, I know you mentioned next man up mentality, but for the rookies out west for the last 4 games, just stepping in and, performing how they did, just what does it say about them? And can you talk about just Jason, Noah in those 4 games out west?
Well, it starts from the moment you draft them, so you have to give Jeff and his staff a ton of credit for understanding who they're bringing in. And then the second side of it is those guys just continue to stay pros. They continue to work on their game, study the film. Both of those guys are not afraid. They've been professional all year long. The coaches that are working with them have helped them, hold their feet to the fire, keep them accountable in what they're doing. So when they step on the floor, they're not afraid because they've done it before. And going against our, guys in practice, they've seen high-level defense as well as, the ball moving on offense as well.
Coach, how big has Anthony Black's versatility been, not just these last few games filling in for Franz, but just as a spot starter all season, just being able to start at basically any position, filled multitude of roles for this team, and especially the hot shooting and scoring as of late?
I think it goes back to, I'll keep referring back to Dan, the versatility, one, of the group, but then two, staying ready when your number's called. It's a long season, and, you're never really out of rotation because you're going to be needed because, the history here says that we haven't always been healthy. So guys have to know that they're going to get their opportunity. And what are you going to do when your number's called? That you have to stay ready, working on your craft, and just being able to get out there and contribute to the group.
Thanks, Coach Mosley.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.